Hi, I'm Juan Loaiza, and today I'm going to give you an overview of Autonomous Database Dedicated. So first of all, let's give a quick overview of what Autonomous Database is. Autonomous Database lets you rapidly and easily create mission-critical databases. So this includes both creating Exadata cloud infrastructure, real application cluster scale-out databases, and configuring active data guard standby databases. Autonomous Database protects data from both external and internal threats. It applies security updates online, prevents administrative snooping with database vault, and encrypts all data. Autonomous Database automates all infrastructure and database maintenance. So it patches all software online, it tunes all the settings, performs all OS and sysdba operations, and diagnoses errors automatically. Autonomous Database recovers from any failure without downtime. So it automates backup, restore, and application transparent failover both within a cluster and to a remote standby. Autonomous Database scales online for both highest performance and lowest cost. So it scales up or out as needed, automatically and online. And its instant elasticity enables pay-per-use. Autonomous Database optimally runs workloads without any human tuning or direction. It automatically optimizes the data formats within the databases, the indexes that are created, the parallelism, and the optimizer plans for each individual workload. There are two deployment choices for Autonomous Database. The first is serverless, which provides an ultra-simple and elastic autonomous database. The second is called Dedicated, which provides a customizable private cloud within the public cloud. I'm going to talk a little bit of detail about each one of these. So in serverless, the goal is to be ultra simple. Oracle automates and manages everything. This includes deployment, lifecycle, software updates, everything. The customer just chooses the database compute size, storage size, and region. Everything else is done automatically. Serverless is extremely elastic. You start with a very low minimum of 1 OCPU and a very low minimum time commitment of 1 hour. And you can instantly grow or shrink the CPU or storage capacity online, allowing you to pay only for what you use. Now, a quick overview of Dedicated. It provides a private database cloud running on dedicated Exadata infrastructure within the Oracle Cloud. It runs all your databases within that private database cloud. That includes any size of database, any scale of database, or any criticality of database. Dedicated provides the highest isolation to protect from noisy and hostile neighbors. And Dedicated provides customizable operational policies for things like provisioning databases, software updates, availability, and the density of databases. And Dedicated will be available as a cloud at customer solution. Let's talk about the use cases for each of these. So for serverless, the use cases are primarily for business users wanting data-driven results fast. So this includes line of businesses, departments, small, medium businesses, and also developers and data scientists. Dedicated is focused on IT departments wanting to rethink the way they do database IT. So that includes CIOs, CTOs, architects, and DBAs. Now let's get into a little bit of detail on how Dedicated works. So first of all, Dedicated provides that private cloud in the public cloud. The administrator starts by just specifying a size of the Exadata infrastructure, the region and availability domain that they want. So they say, I want, for example, a quarter rack in the Western US. Then they partition that system any way they want by specifying the desired clusters and container databases within that Exadata infrastructure. And then they allow users to provision databases within these container databases. And again, this is very simple. To create a database, you just specify the compute and max storage. And again, the CPU and storage can elastically grow and shrink completely online. Now, the billing for Autonomous Dedicated is basically based on the size of Exadata infrastructure that's chosen and the number of CPUs that are actively used by the databases. And you can bring your existing on-premises database licenses to lower costs. Okay, let's focus a little bit on Autonomous Dedicated and how it provides isolation. So in Dedicated, we allow multiple levels of isolation. You can choose to create multiple databases to isolate workloads. You can choose to create multiple container databases to isolate workloads. You can choose to create separate clusters of virtual machines to isolate workloads. Or you can choose to put workloads in completely separate hardware with hardware-enforced private networks. The level of security and performance isolation can be tailored for the needs of each individual database. On-premises, implementing all these kind of levels of isolation creates a lot of complexity and administration load. But in Autonomous Database, you just specify what you want, and Oracle does all the hard work of provisioning, maintaining, and managing all these different levels of isolation. Okay, let's talk about the customizable operational policies next. So you can customize, first of all, database separation policies. So that means you can separate, for example, mission-critical databases from general-purpose databases from test databases. And you can separate databases by organization. For example, separate the sales databases from the HR databases. A second level of customization is that you can customize the software update and upgrade policies. So for example, you can choose to deploy new database versions first on a test dev database before they're deployed on a production databases. You can choose to avoid any kind of software update during peak periods like a big sale or a quarter close. And you can control the upgrades of the software to make sure you conform to any kind of application certified database version. Another level of customization is customizing by availability policy. So for each container database, you can specify the level of availability and disaster recovery that's needed for that database. And lastly, you can customize the level of over-provisioning and peak usage policies for your databases. Now, let's talk a little bit about the use cases for Autonomous Database Dedicated. So first of all, it's a full Oracle database that runs any kind of workload. So within Dedicated, you can run OLTP, analytics, IoT, microservices, and you can use any kind of data, including structured data and unstructured data. The important use case for Autonomous Database is to convert a bunch of manually created independent databases into a consolidated database as a service in the cloud to transform your current manual infrastructure into a fully autonomous cloud that runs all your databases. Now I'm going to provide a couple of examples of how Autonomous Database Dedicated might be deployed. The simplest example is where we put all databases in a single container database. In this example, we have one web store container database as both the shipping and the shopping database. And we will have one service level and one maintenance update schedule for all databases. A more sophisticated example is where we separate databases into multiple container databases. So for example, we can create a container database for test workloads, and this isolates tests from any production workloads. It also allows us to deploy new software updates first into the test databases and later into the production databases. We can then create a separate container database for the web store because it's a much more mission-critical database. And we can configure this to have a disaster recovery database at a remote location. And then, for example, we can add another container database for manufacturing databases in order to separate it so that it has independent software update policies from the web store. In this example, we can provide very high over-provisioning in the test container database since we want to reduce the cost of the test databases. And we might choose to have no over-provisioning at all for the online store since it's highly mission-critical. Okay, so in summary, with Autonomous Database Dedicated, you get all the benefits of Autonomous Database, including you spend much less by reducing administration costs and reducing runtime costs. You can reduce your risk by preventing cyber attacks and having a database that's always available using proven database technologies that are easy to migrate from on-premises. And you can innovate more by refocusing your talent from doing things like administration to working on new projects, improving user experience, deploying analytics and machine learning. And you can develop and innovate much faster with instant provisioning, complete self-tuning, and our integrated database application development environment. With Dedicated, you also get a private database cloud running on Exadata infrastructure in the public cloud that's completely isolated from other tenants and has highly customizable operational policies. Thanks for joining me today. For more information, please go to oracle.com/autonomous database.